Joseph, do you want to sort of set up? I'll fill in any of the gaps, but do you want to? Because you were the one that put me onto this, and then I took it and made it more difficult on us. So
yes. So for those who don't know, did you tell them it was only going to be the entertainment episode this week?
Yes. So we're only having this one episode this week because both Joseph and I have a lot of stuff going on in our lives.
Yes.
And this is just one of those weeks, and next week is going to be sort of similar. So something will come out next week. I just don't know what that's going to look like and how the days are going to work. And like Joseph was saying, until the value for value system kicks in and it's really going hard, this is just the way it has to be. Like, we're going to be as consistent as we possibly can. We have been. Those of you who have been with us for a long time at this point know that we're pretty consistent. And this is it's a season. It'll probably be about 2 weeks of this, and then we'll be back to a pretty regular schedule. Hopefully. So thank you guys for the continued support. And Joseph, why don't you let everybody know about this this thing that you sent me yesterday, and we'll get into it.
So if you haven't heard by now from our YouTube channel and podcast, there's a little show coming out in September 2nd on a Friday called The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, or as commonly referred to, LOTR. And so Amazon, released that crappy trailer. And then after they released that crappy trailer, they said, hey, let's successfully follow that up with shills superfans.
Yes.
So superfans shilling for the company that didn't know anything they were talking about. Then they're like, well, obviously that was a terrible idea. Duh. And so they're like, let's look up all the lore channels and lore channels for the Lord of the Rings on YouTube and invite all of them or most of them or whatnot to come see exclusive footage. We'll pay for everybody and all that stuff. I just happened to click on The Broken Sword, which is a really good Lord of the Rings lore channel. I've enjoyed them. There's many of them that I enjoy. I've been following them since they were History of Middle Earth, before everything happened with YouTube and Kappa, and they got their channel deleted because of all the copyright music, and boom. But now they're called The Broken Sword. And there was a gentleman on there who made me privy to what I just told you, that Amazon had bought, given out these free trips to London to these lore channels to come see 20 minutes and address some concerns and all that good stuff. So that's the setup.
Yeah.
I could go in more detail. I just didn't, want to ruin the video.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're pretty much. I think you nailed it. They're pivoting away from this. You're right. I would say that Amazon selectively picked lore channels or people that know what they're talking about, because clearly some of the more critical channels weren't invited. Now, did you happen, because there wasn't a whole lot of information that the three channels we're going to look at, hang on, dude, my brain. The three channels that we're going to look at, they didn't give a lot of information about how this happened or what Amazon did for them, because they were in London for 4 days. I believe only one of those days they spent with Amazon, right? And they watched the 20 minutes of 20 minutes of footage, and then there was a Q&A with I wrote their names down.
With JD Payne
and Patrick.
And Patrick McKay.
And
they were super excited, which means we were super excited. And
so I mean,
it's good to have passionate showrunners. You want that.
Nothing wrong with being excited, and
unless they're from Bad Reboot.
We are. I guess the only other thing that I wanted to make sure that I said before this, because this is just something that we've been running into a lot, covering Halo. Not with everybody, but we have been running into it a lot, where people assume that criticism and hate and like hating or being a hater is the same thing. It's not necessarily. Criticism and just straight up hating on something for the sake of it are two different things.
Yeah.
And we'll get into some more of that because they're going to cover a lot of the. This is like a perfect culmination of a lot of my pet peeves about the way that people discuss or quote unquote like react to things. Because usually it comes out to be a lot of nothing. I haven't left watching a video with any more knowledge or information or anything to chew on. And I'm sure that you and I are occasionally guilty of that. I don't want it to come off it's like, end all be all. But one of the things that I try to do with our content and try to push both of us to do is to go beyond just like this word feel, I feel, or it feels like, or whatever the case may be. Because, to
back up our opinions with some actual objective truth if it's available.
Yes, or at least strong. Try to, even if it's something that's potentially subjective, that I have a strong argument or at least somewhat of a well put together argument for the way that I'm seeing this. And you and I have been wrong about things, and people have mentioned where like, hey, well,
you have.
Yeah, you have too. I edit,
I'm not ever.
I edit all of our videos. I'm not always
right, but I'm never wrong.
I edit all of our videos. Okay, I just don't tell you about all of them. Plus, it's not that big of a deal, right?
No,
sometimes we misspeak. Sometimes we get certain things wrong. A lot of the time, it's just small stuff, and that's going to happen when you talk for long periods of time. At some point, you're going to misspeak. It just that's how it works. So, all of that being said, what we are doing here is not to hate on these channels. To be honest, before Joseph had sent me into this, I'd never watched any of these channels before. What we're doing, like we do with reviews and a lot of things that we cover, is we're taking it at face value, and going through what they're saying rather than it being about any sort of like bringing any like preconceived notions necessarily into it.
Right.
I don't know. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think
that's all I got.
I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head. And I think Gary said it best. You had said something earlier about, people like with Halo, the kind of criticism we keep getting is where the book says this, or or just we're trying to judge what's put in front of us. And I think Gary said it best when he said from Nerdrotic, if you don't know, that you can't fool me when it's been the 100th version of something that just has a new cover, but it's still going to be the same thing. It's still going to be the same old bait and switch or formula that you've had in the previous 99 movies. So just because maybe this one has a new cover doesn't mean that, I'm not able to criticize it. And that criticism doesn't mean that I'm hating it. It means that I'm hating or constructively criticizing this formulaic movie or TV show.
Yeah. So we're gonna,
especially when they've been putting in the bad robot production company.
Yeah.
When that production company, along with J.J. Abrams, has a bad history of doing bad adaptions, a woke agenda or a leftist agenda, and just inserting it where there's no build up to it or any just kind of overall narrative surrounding that. Yes. It's just out of the blue, right?
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. That's not hating. That's just having common sense. It doesn't take too much critical thinking to see that. So that's the only thing I wanted to say.
Cool.
Also, kudos to Men in the West if he went on that and did not put out a video yet.
So as far as I know, these are the only 3 channels who have posted about this yet, and I know there were other channels there because we'll see a little bit of the footage and some of the stuff I left out. I will link to all 3 of these full videos because, again, just like with some of the stuff we're going to be talking about, you don't have to 100% take our word for what we're showing you. what I tried to do is only edit out the parts of the video that were not important to this discussion. Some of the videos are very long, and there was just no point for us to go through a 30-minute video when there's 10 minutes of what we actually are trying to talk about here, which is the actual content of what they went to see and their reaction to going to this event in London. So we're going to be looking at Nerd of the Rings first, and then a very small channel called Knewbettadobetta.
Yep.
And then the Broken Sword will be the last one.
Knewbettadobetta. Yep.
And so, again, we'll be kind of pulling like an EFAP on this one. A lot of what they do is that they're going to pause a lot. So if Joseph or I want to mention something, we're going to pause and we're going to kind of try to talk about that segment. Now, one of the things you'll notice is that all of these people repeat themselves a lot. So as we start going through the video, or these clips that I pulled, you guys are gonna we'll go through a lot of it faster because there's no point in constantly going like pausing for them to be like, man, the producers really knew what they were talking about. They repeat themselves a lot in these, so we'll probably point that out, but it's not going to be crazy. So I just thought this would be, to a degree, a nice change of pace.
Agreed.
So, and this is going to work well for our podcast too, for the audio segment, because it's all audio.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, all right. So we're starting with Nerd of the Rings, and yeah, we'll just go. And like I had told you before the show, Joseph, just let me know if you want me to pause anything.
Will do.
All right. So here we go.
So,
okay, immediately. Just to point this out, this is a very YouTuber thing to do. Where, so, he walks in, he sits down, he sighs. So, just pointing it out. Not a big deal. It's just a really funny thing because a lot of them do this for, like, dramatic effect, I guess.
I've just seen footage from Rings of Power. And I have some thoughts. Some I can share with you now, and some are going to have to wait a little while. So I'm just going to kind of give my free-flowing thoughts off the top of my head. We just got back from the screening.
Okay. First thing. Do you know why this bothers me?
Go ahead and let the good people know.
Write some points down. So one of the and I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I know he's going to say it. When you're doing something like this, and you've been given special access to 20 minutes of footage, and you've had this Q&A, like they're going to get into. Write some notes down of some stuff that you can, like, if they told you there's a lot that you can talk about, and then there's a lot that you can't, write down the stuff that you can talk about and let people know.
Yeah. Yep.
Don't free flow. Most people can't do it.
No, most can't. Most enjoy having content put together, pre-planned, right, and then releasing it.
Yeah, scripting, doing the whole thing. I don't know. You've watched his videos, right? Does he he script? He does scripted.
Yeah,
okay,
scripted. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. It's not that
really
you can't,
good.
Yeah.
Great at it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that's why he's so popular.
Right. Yeah. He's got nearly 600,000 subscribers. Right. Again, so it's just a little thing. It's like if you're used to doing scripting and you're not good at the opposite, write some notes down. Do a little scripting just so you know. Anyway.
So there's going to be a mess of stuff, but I just wanted to give some initial gut reactions to you guys. I saw some things that I really, really liked. I heard some things that I really, really liked. And, there's still a couple things that I'm not entirely sold on. But, as I've said, if you've been on the channel for any decent amount of time, you've heard me say, I'm gonna wait to judge it until I see it, and that includes this. I'm not gonna be, swayed one way or the other, honestly, by seeing.
So I disagree with him here.
I was waiting for you.
Okay. Trailers are made to be judged, whether positively or negatively. That is the literal point of them. And I'm tired of this argument. Well, you need to give them benefit of the doubt. My time costs money, and seeing a show costs money.
Yep.
Two very important things to me: time and money, right? As it is to everyone. It is their responsibility to convince me to give that up, not mine to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
And so, again, this argument is poor. I'm going to wait to get into more detail, but he is wrong to understand, like, okay, maybe you can't say conclusively, right?
Yeah.
Completely understand that. There's a difference in saying, hey, like you and I have said, hey, if this show comes out and it's great, we'll eat face on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll say, hey, we were wrong about this. They're doing a good job, even though they've changed the lore here. They've added this character and that character, taken this out and done this and that and everything. Which, by the way, I've been meaning to talk about how to actually review that. Probably just how we're doing Halo. But again, it's this idea that you can't judge the Lord of the Rings specifically, right? The Rings of Power, based off of not just the trailer. It's not like we only have the trailer, mind you.
Yeah,
it's not the only thing. That would probably hold more weight if that was the only thing. But the showrunners, the writers, after Christopher Tolkien died, the fact that they fired Tom Shippey and rewrote everything, cast left, which, I mean, great decisions by their agents or by the cast members getting out of that show, because the looks of it is it's the Titanic heading towards the iceberg.
Well, not only that, we're not talking about, like, and this, again, this is a common thing that will come up more than once. But we're talking about they got access to 20 minutes of unseen footage.
Yep.
You
got
have
a paid trip to London.
Yes.
Got gifts and goodie bags.
Yeah, we know they got the gifts and goodie bags for sure.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I don't blame them. I would have, if Amazon called us and said, hey, I would have said, hey, but we're going to keep our same criticisms are there. We're going to be honest, transparent, and we don't care what y'all do.
Yeah, well, y'all
don't invite us back.
Yeah,
but
that's actually a really good point. Just so people are aware, if anything ever happened and I got the NDA and they basically were like, we can't talk about anything, we would either put up about a minute-long video being like, look, we saw some stuff. They won't let us talk about anything. I can't talk about this without in a critical way, without giving things away that would break the NDA. So we're not talking about it.
Yep.
And that's and we could talk about how that would be a problem, because the way he's talking about it, and again, this will be a thing throughout. We don't. It sounds like that was what happened.
They had to sign an NDA.
Well, they definitely signed an NDA. That's there's no doubt in my mind about that.
Yep.
But what I'm saying is that NDA, from the way they're talking about it, they couldn't say anything.
That would be so. Yeah, I would wonder exactly what I would want to know with that NDA is exactly what I would be allowed to say and wouldn't be allowed to say.
Exactly.
Would I still be allowed to say, hey, it looks like it's going to suck?
Yeah. And
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or would it have to be something more tamed? And I think, like, in my opinion, in Lord of the Rings, especially, seeing that he did the live stream with the OneRing.net. He was part of the live stream. He wasn't there with them, but he was just part of the live stream of the Rings of Power viewing trailer.
Yeah.
And is that I think he is trying his best to be objective but not burn bridges at the same time.
He's trying to be a centrist with this.
Yeah, he's trying to ride the fence with it as best as he can.
Yeah.
To each his own. That's not, my play. That's not my play personally, depending on how everything goes. I also think, like, when you talk about Amazon, this is the thing. When you meet people behind the scenes and you form relationships, that has the ability for you to view things through rose-colored glasses. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so I think that's something that's at play here.
Now,
that doesn't mean that his opinion isn't transparent and honest. But when,
it's not exactly the most transparent. I mean,
yes, that's what I was going to say.
None of them really are, only because it doesn't seem like they could talk about anything.
Yeah.
So anyway,
it's like he has his governor on while he's talking about everything, while at the same time trying to respect his subscribers too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I won't get into his personal motives just because I really don't know. But there seems to he's definitely trying to play that centrist role, kind of being like yes and no, and it's like all right, man. It's like you just clearly you couldn't talk about anything really. But
I think it's because he wants to. I don't know what his motives are, but it's probably to kind of like what you're saying. Like,
well, let's keep going. Let's let him.
Access is a powerful thing.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Some footage. I need to see the story play out. I need to see how the characters are executed over a long period of time. And
yes, he's going to bring this up again. Execution is important, and this is actually something I 100% agree with him on. He's like, I need to see how the story plays out, and I'm like, yes. It's like, doesn't mean that when episode 1 comes out that we can't talk about it and talk about what we think they did well and the things that are weird or don't seem to be working for us yet, because that's what you do when you do episode by episode reviews. But I agree. It's like, I need to know about the story. I need to know how the characters are going to be written, how they're the actors are going to perform. And that's this. And he says something similar later on in the video is the most like pinpoint thing I think anyone in the clips we're going to watch today. Okay. It's the closest that they get to being like, yes, that I agree with you on. That's something that a trailer and maybe 20 minutes of footage, depending on what they saw, might not be able to fully show you. So that's a point I do agree with him on.
How those characters develop, how storylines develop. But I will say, what I saw, like I said, there was some things that really excited me. And there was some things I'm not entirely sold on, but we'll see how it goes. We got to have a Q&A with the showrunners, J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay. And honestly, I think I enjoyed that even more than
pet peeve of mine. When people say honestly. In all honesty, just to speak the truth here.
It's like we would hope that would be the case.
I'm not assuming you're lying, so
yeah.
I understand it's just a figure of speech, right?
Well, yeah, it's a tick. Like we all have them. People say like. You have one, and I cannot remember off the top of my head what it is.
It used to be this. Was one of mine until my uncle called me out on it.
Man, I need to go back. I wish I could remember because I was editing something we were doing. It was probably for TikTok or something. And you have a specific word tick, and you say it a lot, and I can't remember what it is.
Is it
No, it's like it's a phrase.
So I don't know. Kayla would probably be able to speak it.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's just it's just his tick. I get that, but I'm not assuming that you're lying. But go ahead. Let's continue playing this on him talking about J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay.
Seeing the footage. There again, I can't go into detail about what was said or what was asked or what was answered.
He's basically, this is what I'm talking about. He basically can't tell you anything. He can't tell you anything. Well, how are we, what's the point of doing an entire video and the meat of the video is I got to see 20 minutes. Let me give you my impressions of it. And then your response essentially breaks down to, well, I can't really tell you what was shown or what was said or what was asked. Yep. It's like, well, okay, that's fine. What can you tell us? Because you've only got one side of it. This could have easily been a
2-minute to 5-minute video.
Yeah, his video's 30 minutes.
I know. Oh, man.
Or what was not answered during the Q&A. I'm trying to think what I can and can't say. So what I'll say is, if you've watched...
So that would have been the important part of with something like this specifically, with it being scripted, or at least writing thoughts down of knowing what you can say and can't say. Yeah, that way you don't end up making a 30-long video for no reason.
Yeah, they give you NDAs will tell you that stuff, like what you're not allowed to talk about. And so you go, okay, I won't talk about that stuff, and I'll work around it. And yeah, that's why you want to be able to write notes down or script something, whatever the case may be, because you can more easily work around the things that you're not allowed to talk about instead of going off the top of your head trying to remember what the NDA told you couldn't talk about, what you saw, the questions and answers, right? This is some, they have, this channel in particular, 600,000 followers, right? They've been doing this for a while. This is, I'm guessing for them, at least some sort of part-time job, if not full-time for some of them. There's a certain level of professionalism.
I think
if
it's
you're
just
gonna.
him.
Okay, well,
Lord of the Rings. Yeah,
it should be something that's like, you should give the people who are sub to you the best possible quality and give them the information that you can. And if you can't talk about anything, be honest about that. Be open about that. And he kind of is, but it sounds like he's trying to, he's attempting to dance around what he's not allowed to talk about without actually giving any information. All right, I'm going to keep going.
Okay.
My videos, and you've heard some of the concerns that I have. What I would consider to be my most major concerns are significantly less concerning now.
Why can he not talk about the things he was concerned about?
Yeah, exactly.
If
he's going to say that.
Again, I understand for people who have watched his channel, right? But for me, right, as someone who had never seen, this is the first video I've ever seen of his.
Yep.
I now have to go back and find your videos where you were you talked about your concerns.
Yeah, right.
Is there stuff in the NDA?
And he didn't even say, I'm going to link him here.
Yeah. He might have. I actually didn't check. That's a good point, though. He may have linked.
I'll check while you're
that stuff. But yeah, it's very weird. If you're, oh man, follow through. If you're gonna say, well, I had certain concerns and they've been alleviated, at least try to give us some indication of what that is. The NDA, man, there's either something weird going on here, or that NDA was unbelievable.
Really tight.
It must have been unbelievably strict. That seems like the thing, but I don't know because I can't ask him, right?
Yeah, there's no link to his positives and negatives, like his major concerns and then the things he was looking forward to. So
all right, well, let's keep going. But
you at least done that.
Yeah, because I think this is the second time. I think he said it earlier in the clip. That he's like, some of my concerns feel a little more alleviated. And it's like, okay, but what are those concerns? Like, give us some detail. Let's get into what's going on. You know, it's like, can you not even at least say the show looks better than the photos?
Yeah, and I'm wondering if
it's weird.
You know what the other thing is weird? Sidetrack. How Amazon still hasn't released a trailer for this thing. Like what we got was a teaser trailer. That's it. And this show comes out September 2nd. What that tells me is that they know this sucks.
Well, they do. That's why they did this. This was absolutely a pivot away from the ridiculousness that they originally tried to do. They 100% thought that they could drop this teaser. They thought that they could put that Superfans thing out and that everyone would just eat it up. And no one would question anything, right? That they could drop Vanity Fair articles and that it's like we're talking about Lord of the Rings fans. These are the people who love this lore, and some of them will dig through every piece of everything that you give to them, and they will tear it apart. And they're out here like, well, we'll just find some random YouTubers who are talking about Galadriel and how amazing she looks in the trailer, and then you go to their YouTube channels and none of them have ever even spoken about any of this.
Anything at all, or not even a blog somewhere, an article or a tweet or a post, nothing. So
this is them trying to move into the direction. They're like, well, fine, we'll find some actual channels that are focused on Lord of the Rings. Great, should have done that from the beginning. But now they're telling us, it's like these guys are coming out and we're like, you've seen 20 minutes. Like, what? Can you not give us anything?
Yep.
No,
because
anyway.
My whole idea was that Amazon was trying to get that native advertising through doing this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's what the other one was too, was native advertising for the show.
Exactly.
All right, let's keep going.
After having spoken with the showrunners, so talking with the showrunners, I will say that in particular, Patrick's enthusiasm was kind of contagious. And
what does that have to do with the show?
Who wouldn't be excited for a show that this is their first anything they've ever worked on that they've led, right?
We're gonna
when the previous one was an uncredited Star Trek movie that blew.
Yeah, they had like co-writing credits for Star Trek Beyond. It's the only thing that we know of. That by the way, none of those people happen to mention that, and the producers the showrunners get mentioned quite a bit in these clips. Yeah. This reminds me too, which is so funny, of there was an Abba and Preach video that I watched recently where the directors of the Jubilee videos were talking about comment sections and how terrible they were, and how they had all these people who were being super mean to them and being haters. Yep. And one of the clips that they pulled out was someone who gave them the most like well thought out criticism of one of the videos.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And the directors are like, but I worked so hard on this, and I'm so passionate about that. That reminded me of this, because he's going, you know what? Hang on, let me roll it back just a second, just so I get what he says correct. But it's essentially all along the lines of like, he seems so enthusiastic, and it's like, that doesn't mean it's going to be good.
Yep.
All right.
It doesn't mean it's going to be good at all. And not only that, especially when you consider, it's not so much that they don't have any experience, as more so as it is that they worked with J.J. Abrams and they got the kiss of death from him, as Gary famously said.
Yeah. Well, and showrunners should never only have a single credit to their name.
No, they shouldn't.
That's crazy.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
When Peter Jackson made The Lord of the Rings, did he have previous credits to his name?
Directing credits, yeah.
Yeah,
quite a few.
Okay.
So, and what you'll notice about his movies too is, because he was a horror director.
Yep.
Some of the elements of like the Nazgul and I can't remember what the area is called, because again, I'm not the lore guy. But there's the section where Frodo, Sam, and Smeagol are going through that swamp, and Frodo falls in, and he's like drowning, and the ghosts are like pulling him down or whatever. That's a very Peter Jackson style, like all the skeletons, all the skeletons, the way that the visuals look, and the creepiness of like that famous moment where Bilbo does this little like thing. That's all very much inspired by Peter Jackson, because you can go check out his movies. I think one of them's called Dead Alive. It's like a zombie movie set in Australia. It's disgusting, but if you're into that kind of like old school gross horror movie, his old school stuff, it will be right up your alley.
Well, there you have it. I mean, especially like I would say, even if he had been, which was a risk at the time, but you got to think like this is a 500 just for this first season alone, $500 million, $500 million.
Yeah.
And you're gonna get these two guys to do it.
Peter Jackson must have sold them something incredible.
You mean J.J. Abrams?
No, I'm talking about Peter Jackson back in the day. Because that was potentially kind of a rare thing to have someone who was a competent director, but he had never done anything big budget that I'm aware of. Someone might be able to correct me on that, but I think Lord of the Rings was like that set off his career. That was like his career maker. It was his
career maker, because fantasy like that wasn't something that was big. And
true. Yeah, I always forget about that.
Yeah, so that was a huge gamble. On top of that, when it was originally going to be 2 movies, because he didn't think any studio would buy a 3-part movie, and when shooting back to back to back like he wanted to, and it was the president of New Line Cinema that said, he was really nervous with pitching it, and the president of New Line said, my only criticism is, why are you trying to do this in 2 when it's a 3-part movie?
Yeah.
And absolutely was right about that, because people still criticized it for not being long enough.
Yeah. All right, well, let's keep going, because we're only about 2.5 minutes in.
Let's do it.
I will say that in particular, Patrick's enthusiasm was kind of contagious, and so that gives me some confidence. I mean, that's not nothing. I will say, so like any
Negative.
concern that this was just a cash grab, I mean, make no mistake, like Amazon expects to make money off of this show. Like,
cash grab.
It's a business, and they're totally going to do that. And but talking with the showrunners, there's an awful lot of care that's gone into this that I don't think has been portrayed very well in the marketing, honestly. Like,
And he could be right. I don't
Could be.
I don't know, but again, we have no detail, and so it seems like he's trying to alleviate the fears of his followers, and I don't have any concept of that happening. Like I say the feeling thing or whatever, but him saying this stuff, I'm not thinking, oh man, he's right on it. I don't have anything to worry about.
Yep.
Because it's like, oh well, he's really enthusiastic, and that made me feel better about what was going on in the show and alleviated some of that. And I'm like, but
that doesn't affect me at all because I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. All right.
I think instead of some of the marketing pieces we've seen, like, I wish they would just have JD and Patrick do interviews or something, because...
Pause it right here.
I was literally waiting for him to finish that sentence. Go ahead.
So I was going to say, this could very well be a James Bond type deal where the marketing is more like woke to try to appease the media, so to say. And then when you get to it, Princess Disa doesn't have as much of a role in the show, and then Black Legolas doesn't either, and so on and so forth, and even the human and elf relationship, the single mother, and all that stuff. But that remains to be seen. What were you gonna say?
Oh man, I lost my train of thought. Hang on, let me go back real quick so I can tell you exactly what it was.
Pieces we've seen, like, I wish they would just have JD and Patrick do interviews or something, because...
So he's saying, well, they should have just had JD and Patrick do interviews. It's like, well, first of all, Variety. I think it was Variety, right? No, Vanity Fair.
Yeah, one of them.
So
I believe in Vanity Fair.
They have been interviewed multiple times, and my assumption would be that he means like video interviews, like face-to-face stuff, so people can see their energy, whatever the case may be with that. But this is the thing. How do we know for certain, right, that with this pivot, they were not given research and time spent catching them up on specific things by going to lore channels, right? Mm-hmm. Because this is the thing that happens is like this happens a lot in the Marvel stuff where people will say like, I've been a fan of Eternals forever, right? As soon as the movie's coming around, it's like, where have you been? What are you talking about? And you can, but the thing is you can catch up on a lot of that, and if you have a decent memory, you can memorize a lot of the stuff off of Wikipedia and sound like you know what you're talking about, and that you've been a fan for a really long time, right? So why on earth would they not do that now that when everyone's pushing back about how they don't seem to understand the lore? It doesn't seem like it's going to be lore accurate. They're talking about condensing the timeline like crazy.
Yep, 3,440 years into a couple years, I want to say.
But if we get them out on interviews, unlike before, maybe that'll alleviate things for people.
You have them firing Tom Shippey, changing things once Christopher Tolkien died.
Yeah,
all sorts of red flags.
Yeah, it's suspicious.
Making the show for a global audience, whereas the whole reason why you bought this was because it was already global.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
Yep.
That's essentially what they did for us. We're asking them questions, they're answering, and it was much more impressive than a lot of the marketing that we've seen. From my Tolkien fan perspective. If that other stuff, like I've said before,
Okay, hold on. We're just real quick. The reason it seemed more impressive to you is because they knew you were coming.
Yep. They
prepared.
Yep.
That's it.
I'm glad when you paused it, I was going to make that comment. Was like, they obviously prepared for the people who knew what they were viewing.
Yeah. they
actually got super fans this time.
If I dare say it, I'll say that's what I'm getting from him talking about this, is that they went in and they were very impressed because it was the kind of like wine and dine and make these guys feel really good. You're getting to see 20 minutes of something no one else is getting to see.
The best part,
goodie
probably.
Bag. Maybe, yeah. And yeah, that footage, that's a really good point. Not to mention that footage.
imagine if this was for Halo, right?
Yeah.
And what you saw was episode 5.
That fight scene from episode 5.
That fight scene from episode 5.
Yep. You got 10 minutes of exclusive footage, and it was that. And maybe a little bit of the dialogue and stuff leading up before it, so it seems like they're being fair with it. Yeah, the footage was specifically picked, whatever it was. And the weird thing is, again, no one's even really mentioning, even in a very broad manner, I guess, what the footage was even about.
Yeah.
He hasn't.
Well, I imagine
and
they can't speak on that.
Yeah, but even in a sense of like, hey, there were some pretty cool things in it. You know what I'm saying? Like being very vague, but at least saying like the footage was very interesting. And this is what I'm saying. Is like, how is this NDA not the most cutthroat thing ever?
Yeah,
because they're not saying anything, or he's not.
Nothing.
And I keep saying they because this is going to be a common trend. So here we go.
Maybe that works for general audience or something, but for diehard Tolkien fans, I don't think that what we've seen so far has really, met our appetite. But I think some longer form interviews with the showrunners would be a pretty good move at this point. Like, give us something in depth on camera where we can.
Oh, there we go. On camera.
Read their tone and their enthusiasm. That doesn't come off in just a printed article, which is all we've had so far. So there was.
Okay, fair enough on his point that he mentioned that he was the way he was talking about that.
A lot to be said for what I heard today. But here's the rub. I mean, when it comes down to it, it's the execution. They've got to earn it. It seems like they're well aware of what they've been entrusted with, and they're well aware that not everybody is on board right now, or there's a lot of people with reservations. But just
pause it real fast.
You know what's really funny?
Yeah.
Can I say this real quick before you say
go
that?
ahead.
So I know not everyone's going to notice this, but he's putting his own edits in there. So like he's editing down his conversation, and I'll be like, man, tighten up, tighten it up a little bit, tighten your editing up just a little bit. I know you can probably do better than that. All right, go ahead.
So what was I going to say? I think I was going to say, oh man, what was my train of thought? What was he just saying? He was just saying a whole lot of nothing really.
that's kind of yeah.
But
he was talking about the interviews and sitting them down and
there was something specific he said that you rewind it a couple seconds and then let me.
Okay.
What they've been entrusted with, and they're well aware that not everybody.
Yeah, because it was 3 million at one point. Now it's only showing 1.6 million dislikes on YouTube with the trailer, and not to mention all the criticism that's come out from everybody. And then on top of that, there's rumors of infighting at Amazon and stuff like that. So yeah, they're well aware of how much of a crap show this is seemingly going to be.
Yeah, the key word is that they're well aware now.
Yep.
That's the difference. Because
which indicates to us they don't have that enthusiasm and love of the source material. It was, hey, we want to use this to make our own story, not highlight Tolkien's story.
I can't get past this. This is very much a gut feeling on my end from seeing these reactions that they are just trying to pivot around to fix this thing somehow.
Yeah.
But it's still it's just a gut feeling that this is all to try to like fix problems and isn't really about like making the show better, because it's done, right? Like the season has been
done, and season 2 has already been shot, and they keep saying I mean the showrunners already came out and said that season 2 is really going to be the lore that fans love.
Oh my gosh, dude. You know what's
the showrunners?
Yeah, we'll get into that another time. That makes me think and makes me think there's going to be massive like exposition dumps, and it's not going to be integrated into that. I mean, putting lore into a show it's not necessarily a complicated thing, and occasionally you can do really like abrupt things in a show and just do a small lore dump about something from the past or whatever the case may be. Not a big problem, but I'm concerned about that. Anyway.
Yeah.
Hearing the heart behind the showrunners a bit, It was nice. You know, it was nice to really get a sense of what they're aiming to do, and importantly, what they're not aiming to do. To be honest, a lot of the fears out there, I feel like were directly addressed, and some of the biggest fears that I've had, that I won't go into detail on this video, but.
All right, I'm gonna skip ahead just a little bit because again, he's kind of repeating himself.
Yeah, go ahead
with that. So the next thing is that there were a couple other people that he got. These are pretty quick clips, but again, we can pause whenever. He was talking to a guy and then two guys about their thoughts on it, and it was just like these quick first impressions. Really, the thing to look out for here is that same kind of narrative, those same talking points. Because that's something that I find very interesting about all of this. I'm sure people will pick up on them, but I'm just,
what's important to point it out.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
Well, I mean, first of all, the show itself looks fantastic. I think what we saw of it allayed a lot of my fears. There were a couple of things I was a little bit worried about, and then we heard from the showrunners, and I think that allayed the rest of my fears.
It's pretty similar stuff, right?
Exact same thing.
Allayed fears. He did mention that he thinks the show looks really good.
I mean, for $500 million, it should.
It should at least look pretty. And this is something you and I have talked about in the past on podcasts, on YouTube videos, whatever the case may be. Everything looks good now, to some degree, right? It's so interesting how the bar on cinematography and visual effects is like through the roof. It's all generally quite good. Now, obviously, you have CW, you have a few different things. Halo has some issues, but even of course, like Halo,
big box office things. So.
Okay, yeah. But it's all still even some of the smaller stuff. I mean, like one of the things I talk about all the time is Love and Monsters. That movie had like a $100 million budget. No, it wasn't even that much. I think it was. Oh man, it's been a long time. Anyway, it had a really low budget, especially for a modern movie, and the animation work in that is fantastic.
Yeah, and even the parts where it's not, you're willing to overlook it because the storyline is so good.
Exactly. So the whole it looks great thing, that's fine. I don't really have a problem with the statement in general. But again, it comes back to this idea of digging in deeper, giving us a little bit of nuance. If it looks good, is there nothing that you can tell us from that footage, even just a small slice of it, as to what you mean by that?
Yeah.
How is this more of like, because we've talked in other videos about the way that it looks feels too clean, like it's shot too clean, right?
Feels like a Disney movie.
Yeah.
It seems like a Disney movie.
Is that just because the aesthetics we've seen are meant to be that way, and that there are other things that are going to feel more worn in? Like are some of the cities where we're interacting with Numenorians, is that going to be a little more clean and a little more like upkept, and that's a creative decision versus when you're talking about dwarves, I'm assuming hobbits, elves, like is there a distinction with that? You can't even it's like, can you not even mention that without, we know those things are in the show. So like, how is that even how is that breaking an NDA or or not keeping the secret? It's very weird.
Yeah.
All right.
They
pretty excited.
Pretty excited.
Yeah.
I think I've gone from cautiously optimistic to genuinely excited.
Yeah, but I think even more than the footage, I think it was what we heard from the showrunners.
Absolutely.
It's made me excited. I mean, it's just, I
think their passion and knowledge really showed through.
Yeah.
And it seems to me like this is really going to be in good hands.
Now, there's no...
Okay.
Repeated the same thing again.
Yeah.
And it's like they had 2 years to work on this. 2 years to memorize stuff. And with the changes that they've made and the things that they've added, doesn't show to me. Now, again, haven't seen the show yet. But with everything that we know so far, there's nothing that indicates to me that they know what they're doing. Well, that they love Tolkien, right?
Yeah.
And we've seen this with the Halo show. When you don't have a love for the source material, it bleeds through in everything else.
Agreed.
And that's what we've shown so far, is that it's bleeding through. Now, maybe, quite possibly, again, for me, I'm not going to, when the token characters they've inserted,
we've talked about it.
All that stuff that we've talked about is something for me, that's still going to be a criticism for me. But, maybe the marketing was just bad. The show ends up being better than what we expect, which is already low. So it's not like that's saying that the show is going to be good. But if it is, we're going to give it its due, because when we review Halo, now I don't know anything about Halo really, but when we review Halo, we're not coming from it from the standpoint of every single episode review being like, this is nothing like the lore. Yeah. We got that out of the right way, and now we're just viewing it as its own product.
Yeah, you and I have been talking about that kind of stuff for months at this point. Mm-hmm. When we get to that, I mean, you will add the color in, and you'll talk about certain lore, and we won't be able to kind of get away from comparisons to Jackson's trilogy when certain things come up, or aesthetics, or whatever the case may be, and that's fine. But ultimately, what it comes down to is what's going on in the story. Does this make sense? And do we have good characters? Like, are the characters they introduced flat pieces of wood?
Yep.
Or including lore characters, right? We're not just talking about all the ones that they're making up for the show. Are all of the elements coming together to make something? It's like, what works really well versus what doesn't. And again, we keep bringing up Halo. It's just because it's on our minds right now, because it's something we're reviewing every week. But the biggest problem with that show is that there's not even anything doing the heavy lifting for that show. So the characters aren't great. The story is boring half of the time. It's melodramatic, and there's 2.5 action scenes in 7 episodes.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay, well, actually, I guess we're at three, I think, now.
Yeah, 3 now.
I might be doing my math wrong. Anyway, that doesn't matter right now. So, and again, they're just like, well, based on what we heard from the showrunners, we're very excited now. And I'm like, okay, again, you can't even tell us the questions that were asked, and if they were direct with their answer, like, give us some, like, you got to give us something, guys.
Yeah.
Sorry about that clip being a little extra loud. I might have to fix that.
No, you're fine. Which is something that he should be considering editing and making the video to begin with.
He's doing it all on his phone. Yeah. I'll try. I'm going to try to, this is going to, I'll have to bring some of that volume down when I put this out. So anyway,
go ahead.
So this next one is Nerd of the Rings back at home. He's got a few more things that he's going to say. I may not play all of this one because I'm pretty sure he repeats himself quite a bit in this as well.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of things in here that I want to hit before we move on to our last 2 people.
All right.
Question that Amazon put the red carpet out for us here. This was an event made to impress, and it was an impressive event.
It's one of the most honest things that we'll hear from any of these people.
Yep.
That it was.
And it's a good point. At least he acknowledges that.
He acknowledges. He gets it out of the to a degree. Well, kind of gets it out of the way. It's at the end of the video, but immediately at this party, he's like, "There's no question that they brought out the red carpet for us, and that they were trying to like woo us, essentially." So, props. There's at least some honesty in that, and some openness about that.
That being said, I've already seen some comments and stuff from other folks who have posted because I overshoot when I film stuff, so I'm still editing this.
That actually made me feel good in the heart. Because it's like, that's the way that you should be doing it. Always overshoot.
Yep.
Always get more than you think you'll need. Okay, sorry.
As I record. And I just wanted to dispel something here. I would not have gone on this trip if there was anything in the correspondence or any of the paperwork, anything that said we could not be honest about how we felt about the show or the footage we saw or the Q&A with the showrunners. So the idea that I would risk my credibility with my viewers for 4 days in London is absolutely ludicrous. I would much rather not go, stay at home. I'm actually kind of a homebody anyway, and not mess with it at all than to jeopardize, my honest opinions.
Fair point.
Yeah, I mean,
again, like I said, this 4-day trip is going to put him in with rose-colored glasses, right?
Yeah. It's just like, you can't get past the fact that, from what we can tell, they were invited out. They had this great time, and I do appreciate the fact that he's like, I'm not trying to like jeopardize the channel. It's still just one of those things that
he didn't really talk about anything in the video.
It didn't convince me. Yeah, it didn't convince me to have my fears alleviated just because there were good times.
Fears alleviated.
Yeah, they had a good time. They were treated really well. The showrunner seemed to know what they were talking about, and it's like, all right, man.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll keep going.
Listeners that might pop up in the comments. That being said, has what I saw in London changed my view on the show? To that, I would say yes and no. I say no because, as I've said countless times on this channel, I'm going to wait until I actually see the show before I make a final judgment. I would do that for any show or movie, so I don't know why this one would be any different.
Everybody waits for the show to give a final judgment.
Yeah, everybody's going to do that. This isn't... Oh, man. It comes off like I'm
criticizing people.
Yeah.
Criticizing people who have made criticisms on what has been done so far. And because I'm not doing this and I'm going to wait and I'm not going to, say anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like you're free to speak on how bad the promotion of this has been. Everything going on behind the scenes, everything that's been on the scenes, literally.
Yeah, I agree. It's you give us something, man.
Yep.
Because
what they put in front of us is bad.
Yeah, we're all waiting for the show to come out so we can give a final judgment.
Yep.
And I wonder sometimes, because he mentioned the comment section before this.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder sometimes if that plays a big part in what they think the attitude is.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to tell sometimes when he's like specifically talking about a creator who hasn't liked it and he's assuming is making a final judgment before it's out versus in the comments where someone goes, I'm canceling my subscription. I'm not watching this. This is horrible, right? And again, if there was more detail, if there was more nuance in what he was talking about, we'd probably see that.
Yeah, and guess what? People can make a judgment on not watching a TV show because of the trailer.
Agreed.
He's done it. I know he's done it.
And everybody...
I know there's been a movie or TV show he hasn't watched because of the trailer.
Yeah, I didn't want to watch Reacher because I was kind of getting tired of all this Amazon stuff. It's like, oh, they're just going to do the same garbage with Reacher. Turns out I was wrong. Reacher was pretty good.
Yep. There's been plenty of TV shows and movies where I've seen the trailer. I'm like, nope, I'm not watching that.
Yep.
And when it's come out, everyone has told me how bad it was. I'm like, I'm glad I didn't watch that and give it my time.
Yeah, it happens both ways.
Yep.
All right.
Well, there was a movie recently. I can't remember what it was.
All right, here we go.
Go ahead.
And I say yes because my trajectory on this show kind of went from excitement when it was first announced to cautiously optimistic to maybe just kind of cautious at its lowest low. And, I'm back to being cautiously optimistic, and there's definitely some excitement creeping in there because what I saw and what I heard from the showrunners definitely gave me excitement that, this date is approaching. All will be known pretty soon. And honestly, it's hard not to be excited when you're talking to a showrunner who is as excited as these guys are for their show and for Tolkien.
All that's just more emotionally based.
Yep. No substance there. No nuance.
Yeah, that's it. We're not getting any sort of, well, they're excited, so I'm excited. That's it. That's what we got. And it's like, man, I guess the question comes down is like, people, I guess, trust him when it comes to what he's saying right now.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not really giving him anything.
And and he's trying his best to be as balanced as possible between both ends.
Yeah.
And it's like, bro, just come out and say it. We all know this is going to suck.
Yeah. And that's one of those. That's one of
You'll
those.
You'll feel better. Trust me.
Yeah. I feel like, I don't know. It's just really weird that.
As I think we
no one's even had a criticism of anything that happened.
Yeah. And we brought up that what if they, if this would have been Halo and Halo was this popular and stuff like that. And, they had showed, that the 15 minutes of episode 5 where there's actual fighting scenes and a little bit of dialogue.
Yeah.
People would have been excited for that, right? And they could have done that for this. We don't know what they saw, and it could have been the best 20 minutes of the show because they definitely prepared for it.
Absolutely.
And to give them the best.
Yeah, we don't know. And that's the thing is we don't know because they haven't told us anything.
But we
he
do
hasn't
know
told us anything.
The showrunners are excited.
The showrunners seem enthusiastic about this thing that they're making. Yeah.
Yes.
And they got new marching orders as far as what they needed to say during the Q&A.
Yeah, and who wouldn't be excited for millions of dollars?
Exactly. All right, here we go. He's almost done.
So I'll close with something that I think and I hope that the showrunners themselves would even agree with, and that is that, all the passion and all the knowledge in the world is worthless without execution.
This is a really good point. This is something that people who are very into lore need to remember about any fandom that they're fond of, that execution matters. Mm-hmm. And that almost should be the core element of anyone who is trying to review, you could say critical thinking, whatever the case may be, is that if your execution is poor, all of the other elements really don't matter.
Yep.
I don't care how much lore you smash into a product, right, and how accurate it is, if the execution is garbage.
I completely agree.
Right? That's it.
That simple, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, if you're not respecting the source material, that's going to influence things. Mm-hmm. But even with your own original stuff you're inputting, if it is terrible, can call it terrible. If it's good, going to call it good, because you have to be able to review based off of the execution of what the creators are trying to do.
Exactly. All right, so let's get to our hype man, Knewbettadobetta. Also, congratulations to Knewbetta. He has just around 200 subscribers. I think it was just a little bit below that when I found his video. He got a 4-day trip to London. Again, I'm assuming that Amazon paid for all of this, that they flew these people out there, set them up in a hotel, and that the event was paid for, and probably everything else they had to do on their own, I assume. Please correct me if I am wrong, because I'm not trying to mislead anybody. That's kind of what happens a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it makes sense that they were too. I wonder why Amazon didn't invite us.
Yeah, I wonder why. It's that one thumbnail, I guarantee it. You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
So here's what I can say about the footage I saw. I was absolutely 100% blown away. I mean, I was beyond impressed. I had goosebumps. Amazon put their heart and soul into this. They really care about this project, and it's going to show. So what I would say to all those who are looking forward to this series, you will be rewarded. You will be well rewarded. What I would say to those who are on the fence, who are looking forward to the series, but they have their doubts, put your fears to rest. You are in good hands. We, as Tolkien fans, are in good hands. What I would say to the people who just want to hate for hate's sake, who just, no matter what they do, they just against this, I'm sorry, you're going to miss out on something spectacular. What has the potential to be the greatest television show ever made, easily. Above and beyond, I was absolutely blown away. I cannot wait to see more. It's just beyond words.
He's excited.
Yep. That's about it. A whole lot of nothing in there except for excitement.
Man, and again, he's claiming that this has the potential to be the best show ever made.
Those are big words.
Oh man, so this is the thing. This is the thing too. It's this escalation that goes on in fandom a lot of the time, where every new thing is the best thing since the last thing. Mm-hmm. We've been seeing that a lot with Phase 4 of Marvel, where in reality it was like bad Spider-Man's pretty great and it did really well at the box office. Doctor Strange seems to not be doing as well, but maybe not as bad as everything before Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. But this is something that happens a lot in the fandoms, right? Where it's like, Eternals, I guess Shang-Chi came out before Eternals. It's like, oh, Shang-Chi, oh, unbelievable, oh, Black Widow, oh, it's the best Black Widow, best thing she's ever been in. And then, you have Eternals, oh, Eternals, they're so great, oh, look at these action scenes, oh, story, blah, and you're just like, no, like, why? And then you attempt to have a conversation or be like, well, hey, I thought this was pretty terrible, and then you get like screeching or people, calling you a hater or whatever the case may be.
Or it's like what you were talking about with Cyberpunk.
Yeah. Oh, right. Cyberpunk is a similar situation to a lot of what we're seeing here. And this is not to say that Knewbetta would be that person, that he would react that way. I'm just saying that on the internet, that's tends to be the case. Cyberpunk is a very similar situation, or at least it's giving me vibes of the same thing that happened with Cyberpunk, where all of these games journalists and all of these different people got like YouTube personalities got invited to play, I think like the first 2 hours of Cyberpunk, maybe a little more or whatever. And they brought them in, I'm pretty sure they fed them, it was like this whole experience, and it was a very curated setup with a slice of the game. Everyone came back. They were giving, and you can go look up. There's like a documentary about this, of the developers talking about how amazing the game would be and everything they're on. It's fascinating. I wish I could remember what it was called, but that was like a couple of years ago. Anyway, so all of this stuff was happening, and then the game finally came out, and it was trash.
Yep.
And we completely
trash.
cycled.
Still has patches to this day.
Exactly. They're still patching that game up. I haven't touched it in like a year and a half, maybe.
I never touched it.
And what's so funny too about that situation, and this is something else that fandoms need to be aware of, when you have a situation where something like CD Projekt Red, or the crap that's been going on with Star Wars, or the stuff that's been going on with Amazon and Lord of the Rings, and then you are super angry about that, but then move on to the next product and pretend like none of that else happened, because we're seeing that with this new Witcher thing coming out, where everyone's like, oh my gosh, new Witcher game. And I'm like, y'all already forgot about Cyberpunk. Y'all already forgot that they screwed you last time, and now you're just ready for more.
CD Projekt Red that did Cyberpunk, right?
Yeah, Cyberpunk and Witcher.
Yep.
And so they're like, oh, new Witcher game, trying to build up hype, and everyone's losing their mind. And it's like, you forgot how trash Cyberpunk was when it came out. Oh, they're doing a new engine. It's like, I don't care.
Yep. Pretty much.
Anyway, so we're moving
on to the Broken Sword. The first one I watched.
Yeah. Hey, did you know he's a writer?
Hey, I did not. I didn't hear that enough in the video.
Yeah, here we go.
He looks like a screenwriter too.
He does, yeah. Exclusive footage, and we had the opportunity to meet the showrunners behind this anticipated, and I think somewhat possibly nervously anticipated series. So before we get into it, I am going to make a point here of declaring my bias beforehand. Jake and James sent me along because of my background, because I'm a screenwriter. This is Adaptation, so they felt that I would be a good person to go along and relay some of the information. There is a limited amount I can say. I'm not going to give you spoilers, for example. I'm not going to give you anything like that, because, that wouldn't be right. That wouldn't be a cool thing to do. So obviously I'm not going to do anything like that. But I will declare going into this that I had no particular problem with the trailer. I think that up until this point, I know that many people have had their concerns, and I understand those concerns, to be fair, about the fact that this doesn't feel like a Middle-earth series, that it's perhaps kind of gone in a slightly different direction, perhaps that the people at Amazon... It's Amazon. They're a big old conglomeration, very new to the world of making TV and film and things like that.
Okay. Do you want to say it?
Go ahead.
They're a lore channel, right?
Yep.
And he didn't have any issues?
I noticed that, and I was like, bro, you literally put out videos on the lore, and you didn't have any problem with the trailer after all these people who know the lore, all these other channels did, and had concerns, and you were okay with the trailer?
Yeah. Man, I just get the feeling, and this is it's gut feeling again. I know I've criticized them for saying this feels blah blah blah, but it's just kind of a gut feeling from, or it's just what I'm reading from their reactions to going on this trip and going to see this footage, that they are terrified of saying anything critical.
Yeah,
they might even be allowed to, and
they don't want.
And they're just like, I'm not going to. Yeah, maybe there's still concerns, but I'm pretty hyped about it now. I can't tell you why, but I am. I'm a writer. Sorry,
and
man.
not having a problem with the trailer that came out. Like, oh, come on, give me a break.
Not anything. You're not.
And not one criticism.
Yeah. Okay.
With everything that was revealed in it. Now, again, and that's the thing is like, it's not that we only have the trailer, right?
Yeah.
We have, which is only a teaser trailer. So keep in mind, they haven't even actually released a legit trailer to give us something, right? Just a teaser trailer, just a minute long. That's really, really, really fast, and not even a minute long of just one scene.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of scenes meshed together really fast. And so, and that's purposeful because they know that the show is going to be crap, that they have crap on their hands. And so that's why they haven't put anything out when it's May 10th and we're, let's see, June, July, August, September, 4 months, less than 4 months away.
Geez.
Less than 4 months away.
Not even
June, July, August, September. Yeah, less than 4 months away, and we don't even have one solid trailer yet. So that tells
nervous.
You that they have they're extremely nervous. And so I think I want to say, rumor has it, there's been reshoots too since the teaser trailer launch. I'm not entirely sure, but I think, and there's been infighting at Amazon as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get the show comes out and it's more like James Bond, how it was a bunch of woke advertising, promotional material for the media and stuff. And then the actual show ends up not being as woke as, the promotional material led out to be. Kind of like that they got all that criticism and now it's like, okay, we need to go and fix this.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So just my 2 cents.
I'm skipping ahead just a smidge.
I would say that I as a practitioner in the industry, I tend not to judge things before they are fully fledged. I wouldn't judge a TV series before it's come out because you just don't know.
We've mentioned this already a couple times. I really want to know what they mean when they say that. I don't want to judge ahead of time. I don't.
Everybody, they're already judging ahead of time. Saying the thing, I don't want to judge ahead of time, is a judgment.
It makes
it's a self-defeating argument.
Just tell us what you think. It's okay. It's okay to land on one side of the fence or the other. Like he seems to legitimately be looking forward to this.
Mm-hmm.
But then also being like, I don't want to say too much, right?
Yeah.
And it's not really helping, right? Because this is something that we've seen. Like, if you're super stoked about the series and you want to see it, and you're fine with the changes that are being made, even if you're a super lore fan and you're whatever the case may be, right? Just say that. Be honest. You'll find your people.
Exactly.
And this is something I tell a lot of people in our comment section. It's like, maybe this just isn't the right channel for you.
Yep.
Like, don't watch our content anymore. If it pops up on
because we're going to be honest.
Yeah. If you don't like what we're saying or you don't agree with us and we annoy you or whatever, when you see our content come up, say, I don't want to see this channel anymore. It's an option.
Don't make yourself miserable.
I don't care. Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's a curated homepage.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't know. It's so silly, man.
Yeah, it is.
If you
and
don't,
that's literally the point of what trailers are for, is to put butts in seats, to put it simple. It's to attract an audience, and it also has the potential to do the opposite of that. It's specifically made for judging. Yeah.
And like we were talking about earlier, after a while, when these production companies and people who are associated with some a team like Bad Robot, they're involved in projects, and you're starting to see elements of the message or whatever the case may be being presented pretty blatantly, you have to ask yourself, is that their goal here?
Well, it's exactly what you said with video games, right? People forget, like the same thing with Star Wars and Disney, with Marvel, and they forget the latest product and the previous movie that came out, and there's like, well, yeah, but this new movie's coming out, and they move on to that. We're completely forgetting everything in between. And so again, it's like, and that's a great point you brought up. You have all these people that worked on these previous projects that, we already know Bad Robot has a history of doing bad adaptions of movies, right?
Yeah.
And TV shows.
Yeah. I mean, and you look at like where Star Trek is at this point, and it's like, come on, guys. I mean, these are people who were part of that. And it doesn't mean...
Look at Star Wars.
Because the new Batman movie came out, and the director of that
is a disciple of J.J.
He was
Abrams.
affiliated with it, and it did fine. I think that movie doesn't seem to have fared as well long term over the months since it's been out.
Yeah.
People are starting to tear it apart a little bit more. But I think overall, like it's a perfectly acceptable movie. I mean, I don't think it's bad.
I think it got the Batman bump, the comic book bump.
Yeah.
I don't think it was as good as people let on. Now, that's not to say it's a...
Agreed. But anyway,
first half of the movie's good. The last half of the movie's not that good.
Yeah.
That's the truth. But yeah, I mean, and again, how many times have we seen promotional material for a movie? So you get these trailers, and the movie turns out to be, the trailers are bad, the movie turns out to be good, or you get good trailers and the movie turns out to be bad. But generally speaking, a bad trailer typically leans towards it being a bad TV show or movie. A good trailer typically lends towards it being a good TV show or movie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, The Last Duel, bad promotional material.
Very bad promotional.
Good movie.
Yeah.
Maybe this is one of those cases. I doubt not, because we don't have only just the teaser, minute-long teaser trailer. We have everything else we've talked about in the other episodes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that's happened behind the scenes. So
yeah. All right. We're almost there.
Yep.
Trailer is not enough to go on. And for the record, this is just my opinion, what I'm going to go through here, and I'm just going to give you my feelings on.
Okay. Of course it's your opinion. Anyone who is doing anything like this...
It's an opinion.
It's an opinion.
I think he's just nervous.
You're right. This still needs to be said.
Yeah. Nice beard, though.
Oh, yeah. When you have an opinion about something, right? The way that works, and I mentioned this to Max one time, because he did a video about this. You have essentially the way that you form an opinion, right? Is that you see something, that information goes into your head, and you try to work it out. And from that, and gathering sources or not, depending on how much you're looking into it and what there is available to know, you make a judgment call. And so you watch a trailer, right, for Lord of the Rings, and you notice some interesting things about it, and the way that, for instance, Hollywood is pushing certain agendas. And you say, okay, well, I noticed that stuff. You make an opinion about that, and then you can make an opinion about the trailer, not only based on the trailer or the show or the upcoming show, based on the trailer, based on interviews, and based on stuff like the superfans thing. All of that will lead you to an opinion. And so saying it's just my opinion, it's a shield that people put up.
Yep.
Because they're like, if you criticize, they're like, well, it's just my opinion. It's like, yeah. So
but your opinion's bad.
And you're putting it on the internet for people to hear.
Yep.
And your opinion, like, this is the thing, is like, you can have an objectively true opinion, right? Like, if you have the opinion that if you went into outer space, you'd be able to breathe oxygen, right? Versus someone who says, no, you can't, you will die, right? And it's like, well, it's just my opinion. It's like, well, objectively, your opinion is wrong. Like, you're just straight up wrong, right? And it's not the best excuse. I'm trying to work that out a little bit more, but that's what happens. Is it's like we've entered this phase of criticism, or of reaction or whatever the case may be on the internet, where everyone is talking about how they're like, oh, it's just my opinion.
What I saw and what I think's coming up. What I can tell you is that what we saw today feels a lot more like Middle-earth. A huge amount more like Middle-earth. It does a really, really interesting job of finding a new interpretation of the professor's work, whilst also paying homage to some of the visual interpretations that have come before, specifically, obviously, the live-action Peter Jackson stuff.
This is like the closest thing I think we got to, hey, here's some stuff that was in the trailer of all the stuff that we've looked at.
Yep.
I still don't really know what he means by that, but at least he's like, there's homages to it. I'd be curious to know what he's talking about and if either of us would agree, but hey, thanks.
If so, yeah. I mean, so you know what that sounds like to me is when Star Wars fans would be like, yeah, but there's this Easter egg, or Marvel fans, there's this Easter egg of the Millennium Falcon was in it, and it had that guy from the 1970 movie in it, and
yeah, I feel you.
That's what it kind of reminds me of.
Yeah. You might be right. Legolas probably shows up, dude.
Yeah. No, it's Legolas's bow or something like that.
Oh, yeah. It's like, yeah. It's just hanging somewhere. His like those daggers that he has.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something like that.
No. I'm sorry. It's going to be Baby Legolas.
Baby Legolas. He's like hopping around, kills an elephant at one point. Excuse me, an oliphant.
Yeah. Oh, man.
All right, here we go.
Like, it feels like it's part of the world. It feels like Middle-earth. And I think that really is the headline. It feels like Middle-earth. The trailer, I would say, has not done this project justice.
That's
the
fair.
visuals that have come out, some of the photos, have not done this project justice. And I think that is something that we would agree on in terms of those of us that have been here, is that it's just not what we've been shown so far as a kind of a group.
So he is critical of the trailer.
Yes, that's a very good point.
He was critical of the trailer.
I didn't have any problem with the trailer. Well, it doesn't look like Lord of the Rings, but I didn't have a problem with the trailer.
Yeah, but he already contradicted himself.
Yeah.
I still don't agree with him. Yeah, he's the one that's seen the 20-minute clip, not me.
Fair.
I still don't agree with him, though.
Yeah.
I think it's rose-colored glasses.
Yeah, I kind of think so, too.
It's really, my opinion, though.
It's really funny.
He has his opinion. I'm not a screenwriter, though.
Yeah, it's really funny. It's like they sent me because of my background in screenwriting, but I'm not going to tell you anything about the writing. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't. I'll eat my words in a few minutes if he does, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't. So.
A group of fans. It hasn't done it justice yet. What I can tell you, and I'm really quite excited to tell you, is that what I've seen today does. It feels like Middle-earth, and it feels like I'm back, and there were a few tears in the auditorium.
All emotional.
What we saw today.
The superfans cried too, dude. The superfans cried too.
It was great what we saw. I say that with a gentle optimism. As I said a minute ago.
Wait, what did he say?
A gentle optimism. It was just so funny with all these other people with it.
The words that they're using to try to like get around being fully on board or whatever.
Yep.
Y'all,
there's a reason Amazon hasn't released a trailer yet. There's a reason.
Yeah, why are you working so hard to maintain your credibility? Or like, why'd you put this out if you were that worried about maintaining your credibility?
Yep.
And having to weave in and out of all of these things. It's very weird.
And Gary has connections in Hollywood. And Nerdrotic said there's been infighting going on at Amazon with this. And obviously with everything else we know behind the scenes, everything that's come out, everything the vice president said, Jeff Bezos said, so on and so forth, all the red flags are there.
Yeah.
And as all the people, and just going on Amazon alone, right? All the people who love The Wheel of Time, the same red flags were there. And people were saying the same thing. Just wait to watch it. Just wait to watch it. Just wait to watch it. And then all those people that are big Wheel of Time buffs crushed the show.
Yeah,
talking about how bad it was.
Those first 3 episodes were garbage. I've only read the first book, and I didn't really remember much of it going into Wheel of Time. I watched the first 3 episodes, and I remember telling you this because I was like, how this show does and how it's received is going to be an indication of a lot of what we can expect from Lord of the Rings. And that show was trash.
Yep.
And this will look better. I'm sure Lord of the Rings will look better. It should look a lot better for the money that they're spending on it.
Here's the other thing. They don't have the rights to the source material they need to write the show.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. So it's all going to be original stuff.
Yeah.
It's going to be fan fiction all the way.
And it might be really well written fan fiction, and you might actually like some of the characters, but there's still this problem with it being like completely made up. Like you can't.
Yeah, we don't want to see their version. We want to see Tolkien.
Yeah.
That's what we like.
Yeah, we don't need you to add on to his works that way.
Yep. Exactly.
If you need, because I don't know if he said it yet, because he talks about filling in the gaps or whatever. To some degree, I understand that, but there's got to be a respectful way to do that.
Yep.
If you're planning on do that.
Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
Did a respectful way, even when the characters he didn't include and everything, he repurposed lines which were still Tolkienian in nature. It was Tolkien's literal words. Someone's
probably going to get mad at me for this, but I'm okay with them not having the whole Tom Bombadil thing in.
Yeah, I am
in Fellowship.
You can't make a 5-hour movie.
No, especially you can't have a 2.5-hour movie where, or like a 5-hour movie where the first 2.5 hours is them trying to get out of the Shire.
Yes,
which is the first half of that book.
There's a different pacing in a movie.
Exactly.
Yeah, but Peter Jackson and the entire team, right, stuck to the themes, the ideas, and the spirit of Tolkien.
Yeah, they just sped it up and moved some things around that, they kind of thought at least visually would make more sense, or to give give character moments to characters, like the whole fireworks thing with who I'm talking
with
about.
Merry and Pippin.
Merry and Pippin. Oh, sorry, brain fart. Anyway, let's keep going. We're almost done. We're almost there.
You're not muted, are you?
I will not judge a TV show on clips, on footage, on anything like that.
Why?
But you just said the opposite. That's the third time he's contradicted himself in this.
Yeah, you didn't have a problem with the trailer. Actually, you did have a problem, at least with the visuals from what you were saying. You were actually being critical of what we've seen. Now you're saying like you're not going to judge it based on clips and promotional material. Like, come on, man, you got to
make up your mind.
This is okay. Again, this is why sometimes writing things out instead of going off the top of your head can be a lot better. I'm just saying. Yeah. Even though that's not really something that we do very often, it's different setup for us. But
well, our content is different from theirs. Their content is scripted. Ours isn't scripted.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's right. We don't know. We just don't know. But what I can say is that from what there is, I feel better about it than I did before. Now, there are some specific concerns knocking around on the internet, and I'll address some of them directly. Not all of them, but I'll address some of them directly. And one of the big ones is that the idea that perhaps Amazon don't know what they're doing with this. They don't know they don't know the source material well enough. From the conversations I had with showrunners today, I can tell you that they do.
They do now.
Yes. After all this backlash, they do. And they've had 2 years to prepare for this. And with what we've seen and that's come out, it didn't indicate that they had any type of love for the source material. And we've seen this garbage before, the behind the scenes and this stuff come out and everything. And then it bleeds through. And then you get the whole rundown of, inviting, people to come see how much we're really enthusiastic. We really know what we're doing. Yeah. After all this backlash, you do.
Yeah. We'll get these super fans in here. And now they're like, okay, well, let's go look at these lore channels. And they probably had people watch the lore channels, or they had other people do it, and then they were given the information, or they, you got talking points. It's like, guys, come on, like this is a business, it's an industry. They were going to be prepared for this thing before you showed up.
Yep.
Oh, they know what they're talking about.
And give you the best material.
Yeah, they know what they're talking about now. Go back and read through any of the interviews that are out there that they've done since the trailer came out, or even before. you'll see that there's a change. I guarantee there's a change. All right. Anyway.
Yep. They really do. They know their stuff in a really, really quite intense way. It's great to hear, and it's very, very interesting to hear them quoting specifics. And very, very niche passages and things like that. They know what they're talking about. They know what they're doing. They are, they are fans of it. They are fans of this project, and they are treating this with the amount of respect that it deserves and that we would expect as fans of Tolkien.
Pause it.
Okay.
You mean like all those articles they did calling the fans different isms?
Yeah. Where were the showrunners when that was going on? Hey, no, it's okay for them to criticize.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous, man. All right.
Just saying.
Yeah. No, yeah.
And of the Lord of the Rings, they are doing that. They also the idea that they're introducing new characters that perhaps weren't created by Tolkien has been floated and as a bit of a problem. I would say as a screenwriter,
it is a problem. But as a screenwriter, right? Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
This is a fallacy. Is like just because you're an expert in something does not necessarily mean your word is final on something like this.
Yep. And then on top of that, the Second Age has 136 characters. I find it hard pressing for them to need this many original characters.
Yeah. If you need like background characters to like fill in little bits of dialogue here or there or whatever to add color, that's one thing. But yeah, it's like just straight up making up main characters. What I'm assuming are going to be main characters. And again, we don't know because they're not telling us. He's not telling us.
And again, and if they know the source material so well, how the hell does a black female dwarf make any sense?
Yeah,
they live underground. No sunlight.
There's no sunlight.
That's. I digress.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
And even more egregious than that is Warrior Galadriel. Just saying.
Yeah.
And again, this is not reference to any
no, they
particular
respect the source material.
That we've had more just an opinion formed through the process. That we, when you are going in and you're adapting something like the Second Age of Middle-earth, when there is stuff, there's plenty there, but there are great big blank spaces. Tolkien effectively has written a wonderful, wonderful treatment. He's written an outline or kind of vague story for what's happened with all of the key moments filled in. We know the key stuff that occurred during the Second Age, but we don't know the minutiae. It's all very well and good to say 9 rings were gifted to the race of men, but we don't know why. We don't know how. We don't know the minutiae of that. We know some of it. We know.
No, did you catch it?
We do know why.
No, but did you catch it? Did you catch his contradiction? So he says, we know that the 9 rings were made and given, right?
Right.
But we don't know why. We don't know how. We know some of why and some of how. Bro.
Yeah.
Either.
Now, like, we know about 4 or 5 of them, right? We know why all of them were giving the 9 rings of power.
Yeah.
But we don't know either 4 or 5 of them who they were.
Then
the other 4 or 5, I can't remember exactly, we do know about. Yeah. And again, it's not like everything about them is necessarily fleshed out and stuff like that, but there's ways to flesh those things out that respect Tolkien.
Yeah, or if it wasn't mentioned, maybe you don't need to talk about it and you can focus on the stuff that was mentioned.
Maybe highlight what the author made. It'd be like changing Harry Potter.
Or
it'd be like freaking adding a new character to Harry Potter that's part of the main core.
Yeah.
To flesh something else out.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. There's already enough characters within it.
You remake Harry Potter and you add in like Billy Buckworth, and it's like he's just this dude who keeps showing up, or like they just add him as like the 4th member of Ron, Hermione, and Harry, and everyone's like, wow, why is he here? Or better yet, you could even say this about the magical beasts and where to find, or what is it, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Yep.
That was their attempt to flesh out the world, and those movies are not well received.
No, they're not.
It's based off source material. I mean, and what's interesting with Harry Potter is it doesn't seem like the people who are super into the lore of Harry Potter are very passionate.
The adaptation.
Yeah, they're definitely not as passionate well, I don't know about that, but they don't seem to be as talkative or passionate as like Lord of the Rings fans.
Yeah, that's true.
But then again, like the writer is still alive, and she's kind of just making stuff up as she goes
along.
She's like retconning her own work.
Really?
All right, we're literally on the last like minute of this.
Okay, let's play it.
Some of how and why, but we don't know the minutiae and the really, really small details of that. In order to fill that in, you have to create characters.
No, you don't.
You're just going to have to. And what I can tell you is that, again, from these conversations I've had today and the footage I've seen, these are done in a very, very sensitive and very, very delicate way by people who are...
Yeah, well, even if it is, right, it could just be as much as, here are these characters, they exist, that's it.
Yep. And just because you work hard on something and all this stuff doesn't mean it's going to be good.
And all of even the characters that we don't know anything about the rings that were given to them, that's not the same as making up completely new characters. You're talking about there's a difference between fleshing out a character that already exists and trying to make it as lore accurate as possible versus completely making up a character that has nothing to do with that. Like, this is not. I don't like this argument at all.
I agree.
All right.
The very top of their craft.
No, they're not.
Dude, yeah, they have one credit.
On that
Come
sense,
on.
because I have my concerns about that myself. On
Current
that sense, I am
concerns.
entirely. My concerns are entirely assuaged. There is nothing to worry about in that sense.
No way.
And again,
because
to come back around to this, the theme of this kind of talking head that I'm going to now, and I should say I've just come from it. This is moments ago that I was.
And I'm a screenwriter,
and we were watching this stuff, and I've come.
Yeah, this is the thing. Is like he's like, we just came from this, and so I'm putting this together right now. Listen, take a little extra time.
Yep.
If there's one thing, and I'm still trying to learn this myself, but if there's one thing I've learned from Mahler in particular, and YMS since that Lion King video came out, is that sometimes it's better to just hold off, write out your thoughts. Think about what you're going to say, right? Give yourself 24 hours to mull over the whole thing. I mean, with Nerd of the Rings, fly back to the States. Write some stuff down. Think about the experience. Think about what you saw versus everything you've seen before. Again, this is what I'm talking about when I say this is how you're creating your opinion about something, right? So instead of immediately coming back so that you can get a video out and tell everyone how you got to see this 20 minutes of footage, basically tell them nothing and contradict yourself in the case of the broken sword. Maybe take a little bit of time. Take a breath and consider. That's it. You might actually develop something more. Look back over your NDA and figure out what you can and cannot tell us. Write the points down that you can tell us and tell us those things.
Exactly.
Because you're throwing around your credit as like a screenwriter or whatever, but you have barely said anything about writing.
That means anything.
Yeah.
For us. And then when you do, to your point, when he does talk about this, he doesn't say anything about the writing.
Except that you can make up characters.
Yeah.
And it's just like, come on, man. There's so much more to that. All right. We're literally last like 30 seconds.
Okay. Straight up to my hotel room to give you this information because I wanted to give it to you authentically and I wanted to give it to you organically. And I can tell you that I'm excited, and I'm excited to return to Middle-earth. I'm excited to return to a place that I spent so much time in as a child, and to me, a place that that resonates so strongly with so many people. I feel excited by this. I feel engaged by this.
Feel feelings.
Yes, there will be differences. Yes, it will not be Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings because...
Okay. We knew there were going to be differences.
Yep.
That's not... No, there are not that many purists out there. All right? Also, we knew it wasn't going to be Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. But the thing is like, when it's not broken, don't fix it. You should learn from what came before. Peter Jackson's movies were significantly successful, right?
Yep. Exactly.
What are you doing? Come on, man.
But we already have Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, so why do we need it again?
We don't need it again. No one's saying we need it again. That's not the argument.
Nope. And it just shows how aloof he is to the criticisms people are making.
I don't know where they're getting this.
He may not actually be, but it goes back to your point of maybe thinking things through before posting a reaction video so close to it.
Yeah. I don't know.
It is different. It's a different interpretation, but it's done with an eye on the past, and it's done sensitively. This also takes place 3,000 years prior to...
Oh, I still want to know what he means by it's like done sensitively.
Yeah, right.
Like to the fans, to the material? Like, does that mean that he believes that they're trying to be as accurate as possible? I don't know. Being as accurate as possible while also having to make stuff up. Yeah.
What we've seen on screen before. So there will be organic differences, and it would be wrong. You'd be doing a disservice to the story you're trying to tell if you didn't include those things.
Okay, that's the end of it. We did it, Joseph. We made it to the end. No one will know about all of the random things that happened along the way.
Yeah,
well, most of them at least. Do you have any other thoughts?
No, I think there, obviously, as I stated, I think there's a high likelihood this show is going to be bad. I hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. I don't want to be right. We all want to see a good TV show.
Yeah.
But it seems likely this is going to be bad. And I think that they just got a great 4-day trip. Amazon pulled out all the stops, made it amazing, and that's why they're coming away with this. Like, so again, not saying they've been bought off, but that influence, that bias comes in. You know what I mean? Even when you're trying to be unbiased, because now you have relationships building behind the scenes that make it more difficult.
Yeah. The only other thing that I would add to the Broken Sword, this last part, is that this whole thing was about emotions and feelings. He said, he's like, I can't wait to be back in Middle Earth. I can't wait to feel like my child, it's this nostalgia thing going on. Like all of these things that I have feelings for. I want that again. And instead of focusing on what was shown.
Yeah, exactly.
Why? Okay, why did you feel that way? Like, what made that? Like, it's just, it's the same, man. It's the same stuff that seems to happen all the time with Marvel nowadays. With all of the ridiculous, like, I haven't seen the new Doctor Strange yet, but the feeling of like, oh, this character, oh, I know that character. And it gives you like goose. We talked about goosebumps, right?
Yep.
Or maybe that was the other guy. I think that was the other guy. But they were, all of these, that's all they talked about. It's like feelings, emotions. It wasn't like, okay, well, what is it about what you saw that made you believe that it's more authentic to Lord of the Rings than we've been led to believe